Welcome back to Lions News Fan Report, where we bring you the latest and most exciting sports news every single day. If you're a Detroit Lions fan, or just someone who loves digging into the deeper layers of the NFL draft, you're going to want to stick around for this one. Because today, we're not talking about the big-name first-rounders. We're not talking about the obvious stars who get all the media attention. No, today we're diving deep into a potential Day 3 diamond in the rough who might just be the next culture-setting, high-impact addition to the Detroit Lions. We're talking about Dan Jackson, a hard-hitting, high-IQ safety from the University of Georgia. A player who, on paper, might not leap off the screen, but on the field, he's the kind of relentless competitor who could become a fan favorite in Detroit faster than you can say one pride. Now here's the thing, and this is what makes this story so compelling. Jackson isn't being hyped by the major media outlets. He's not getting the pre-draft spotlight that others are. But if you look closely, if you understand what Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes are building in Detroit, then suddenly this pick makes so much sense. Almost too much sense. Let's break this down step by step. First of all, who is Dan Jackson? He's a 6-foot, 190-pound safety who spent his college career battling in the SEC, the toughest conference in college football. He played for a Georgia Bulldogs program that has produced some of the best defenders in the NFL over the past 5 years. But unlike his more athletic and celebrated teammates, Jackson didn't come into Athens with a 5-star pedigree or blazing 40-yard dash numbers. He wasn't handed anything. In fact, Dan Jackson began his career at Georgia as a walk-on. Let that sink in. No scholarship. No guarantees. Just raw passion and relentless determination. He grinded his way into the lineup, made plays on special teams, and earned his stripes the hard way. By the time he left Georgia, he had not only carved out a role as a reliable rotational safety, but had also become a locker room leader and one of the most respected players on the team. That story alone sounds like a Dan Campbell fever dream. And let's talk about his style of play, because this is where things really get interesting from a Lions perspective. Dan Jackson plays football with his hair on fire. He's the kind of guy who will sprint 30 yards downfield just to make a tackle on special teams. He loves contact. Loves it. He's not afraid to throw his body around. He's not afraid to challenge bigger receivers or fight through blockers. He's aggressive, physical, and maybe even a little reckless at times, but in the exact way that Dan Campbell adores. You remember when Campbell famously said, "We're going to kick you in the teeth, and when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you." That's Dan Jackson. That's his personality on every single snap. He's not perfect. Let's be real, there are concerns. His athletic testing wasn't elite. He's not a burner, and his coverage skills are considered raw. Scouts have knocked him for sometimes being too eager to lay the big hit, which can lead to missed tackles or blown assignments. But in Detroit, that's not a deal breaker. That's a starting point. Why? Because in the Lions system, effort is non-negotiable. Toughness is a requirement. Football IQ and grit matter just as much, if not more, than elite athleticism. And that's where Jackson might just shine the brightest. So here's the million-dollar question. Could the Lions actually draft Dan Jackson? Let's look at the context. Detroit has a very specific identity. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have made it clear they want players who are all ball. Players who don't mind getting their hands dirty. Players who want to fight for a role. They've drafted guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown in the 4th round. They've found starters and culture builders deep in the draft. And they've shown a consistent willingness to lean on their scouting department evaluations over national consensus rankings. Dan Jackson fits that mold perfectly. The Lions' secondary is in an interesting spot right now. With C.J. Gardner-Johnson leaving in free agency and the safety room still looking for long-term depth behind Kirby Joseph and Efida Melifonwu, there's a clear opportunity for someone like Jackson to come in, make his mark on special teams, and earn defensive snaps over time. Could Jackson be the next Jalen Reeves-Maybin, a guy who earns a role through hustle and leadership before becoming indispensable? Could he be the kind of locker room presence that helps guide younger players and hold teammates accountable? Those are the intangibles that scouts don't always factor into rankings, but Dan Campbell does. And let's not forget about special teams, often the launching pad for overlooked rookies in the NFL. The Lions value special teams more than most franchises. Just look at how they've prioritized players who can contribute immediately in that phase of the game. Jackson thrives on special teams. He's a natural fit as a gunner, a punt team protector, and a kickoff wedge buster. This isn't a guy who needs to be convinced to play that role. He lives for it. Some insiders have even hinted that Detroit has had informal conversations with Jackson's camp. Nothing confirmed, of course. But there's buzz. Quiet, under-the-radar buzz. The kind that doesn't make national headlines but often turns into something real on day 3 of the draft. And here's something else to consider. Brad Holmes has shown time and again that he loves drafting players with a chip on their shoulder. Guys who've been doubted, overlooked, who have something to prove. Remember the Lions' reaction after drafting James Houston from Jackson State? Or how they stood by Malcolm Rodriguez despite his size concerns? The common thread is that Holmes and Campbell trust their eyes, not the consensus. Dan Jackson is the perfect day 3 target if Detroit wants to add another culture guy. He might not start as a rookie. He might not even see defensive snaps in the first few games. But give it time and give him an opportunity, and he could become a fan favorite faster than people expect. So what's the most likely scenario here? Jackson is projected to go late 6th or 7th round, maybe even as a priority free agent. But don't be shocked if the Lions jumping around earlier than expected. If they believe in the fit, if they think he can contribute on special teams right away and eventually develop into a rotational safety, why wait? Other teams will be watching. And with Detroit now a destination franchise on the rise, they can afford to take calculated swings like this. Could Dan Jackson be the Lions' next day 3 gem? Could he be the new tone setter on special teams? The kind of guy who lays out an opposing returner, pops up with a roar, and gets Ford Field on its feet? Could we be looking at the next gritty, lunch pail hero in Honolulu blue? But what do you think, Lions fans? Do you want to see Detroit take a chance on a player like Dan Jackson? Do you believe in the culture fit idea? That attitude and heart can make up for average testing numbers? Or would you rather see the team focus on bigger names, higher upside, or more obvious positions of need? Personally, I love this possibility. I think Jackson is exactly the kind of player that Lions fans will rally behind. He's tough, passionate, smart, and completely unafraid of the moment. And if there's any franchise that knows how to turn that type of player into a weapon, it's Detroit. I can't wait to read your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Lions News Fan Report, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. We've got more draft content coming your way. And as always, one pride, baby. Let's go Lions.